Mrs. Harden. Ms. Heredia.
Here.
Myself here. Secretary Terrazas.
Here.
And Vice President Guadiana. Did we hear if he was going to be here?
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay, that moves us to our board norms. Number 1, actively listen to all perspectives.
Number 2, close the loop, responding to concerns and questions as a unified board.
Model professionalism we expect from all members of the district and community, customer service orientation.
Assume positive intent.
Be positive and responsive.
Okay, thank you. That moves us to item D, Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Okay, that moves us to number 2, action items. Item A, agenda items. Mr. Corey, do you have any recommendations for the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else, any recommendations?
I have a question.
Sure.
I reviewed the policy regarding the agenda, and I sent a request that the agenda reflect the policy that we have in place now, and that includes public input on the agenda items.
So that's why it's on here for our agenda, so we could discuss it. Because right now, it's redundant in our policy, and we could look at brainstorming and see how we want to address that agenda item.
The question is, we have a policy. We're not following it. Brainstorming it now is an act of not following the policy.
And we hadn't been following that policy. It's my understanding when President Murillo was here that our legal firm said it was redundant to have 2, and that's why both public inputs, it was reduced to 1.
Our legal firm doesn't override the decisions we've made. And the decision we made, and I brought it up several times, is that we want to have public input on agenda items. Otherwise, people that come to the public that attends the meetings, can't discuss the items that we're going to vote on. So we vote on without any input from people that may have something to say. This is not transparency. If they,
And Mr.
and the
Guadiana,
act- and
this is the first time you've brought this up with myself.
No, no, it's not.
It is, sir.
You mentioned at one point we're transparent, and I said, how can we be transparent when we don't allow people to talk, about issues that are on the agenda?
Mr. Guadiana, I have one email from you for this particular meeting, which is why I put it on the agenda. So as a board, we can discuss how we want to handle it. If we want it as public comment, I talked to legal counsel just before the meeting to see how the policy is, and she said it's redundant. And Carla at the time worked with President Murillo to have one public input section. And we can discuss as a board how we want to do this, because the policy is not clear.
The policy is very clear, and it isn't redundant. We have a public input for items on the agenda, and then we have a public input for anything else.
And why do we need 2 when we can just have a public input for any concerns? It doesn't necessarily have to be agenda items.
The purpose of doing that is that the time can be spent specifically on the agenda items until those are done. And then we have the public comment afterwards. Otherwise, we may spend a great deal of time at the front, and that would make it difficult to go all the way through the agenda items.
Well, I'd like to brainstorm today. That's why I put it as a first reading under new business. And with our new members, I think it's important to include them in that too.
I think it's important for the policies that we approve be followed. Not an attorney saying, well, it's redundant, and it's not redundant. And two, is that it's respect for the people that come.
Well, I have ideas about moving public input earlier in the agenda and just doing a general public comment where they can comment on anything. I think it's redundant to have two. And that's my opinion, and when we get to that item, we will discuss it as a board.
And I just want to note my complaint that we are not following policy.
And I want to,
haven't followed
and I want to
policy
note
for a
that,
year.
I want to note that this is the first time you've brought it to my attention.
No, it
And I
isn't.
have the emails to prove that, sir.
It's been done publicly before in other meetings.
Okay, if you can reference those meetings, I'd love you to do so, because this is the first time I've gotten an email from you. And Mr. Corey, can you speak to Carla from our legal firm removing or telling us to remove the second public input item under President Murillo? Wasn't that a recommendation from our legal counsel?
Because they said it was redundant.
So,
But I think we can accomplish both, right? So
Yes.
I'm listening here, and I think it's possible. Let's just move public comment up on the front side
And have it
Right.
generalized? We'll discuss it when we get, we'll brainstorm when we
That's what I
get
said.
there.
I think we can solve the problem, and everybody can come out of here good.
however, when when the council states that we could do that, why isn't we weren't, the question is, why haven't we been following the policy? And I wrote the email that you're talking about now, specifically citing the policy. And yet we go ahead and say, well, you know what, the attorney said it was redundant, so we'll talk about it. Not, okay, it's policy right now, let's follow it. We can have this discussion by putting it on the agenda, and, but we chose to ignore it, and to discuss it on the agenda.
I didn't choose to ignore it, sir. It's on the agenda. I wanted us to collectively discuss this and see what ideas we could come up with.
The fact that it's not on the agenda right now where it should be as public input is ignoring it.
Well, public input is on the agenda.
Not for items on the agenda.
It's general public input. They can speak on any topic,
You know,
sir.
I think there's failure to understand, and I'll just live with that.
Okay, if that's what you think, sir, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. That moves us to item B, regular board meeting minutes of April 22nd, 2024, and May 13th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. I'll call for a motion.
I move that we approve the regular board meetings of April 22nd and May 13th, 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Terrazas. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Heredia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. This moves us to item number 3, new business. First reading of the NMSBA Policy Services 238 through 245. And Charlene, will you remind me, what this is the one that came down from? Okay. Ms. Church, has this been posted on the website?
No, not yet. I just found it, so I sent it to you first, and then we will post it.
Okay. Sure. Any discussion? I believe this was a new law signed by the governor with the school board bill about the live recording of meetings, the increase in training hours. And I'm sure it'll be an item for discussion at our school board training over the next couple of days too.
I have a question on B0200, the board power and responsibilities. It's on the second page, and that is where there's a lot of striking out related to the training, but it doesn't say how much training is going to be required. At least I don't see that.
What page are you on? Page 2?
It's page 8 of 30 as far as what's on the document.
If I'm remembering correctly, when I gave testimony, it was 10 hours at the time to be at the same level of training hours as charter school members. Oh yeah, it says right here on page 9. School board members in their first term shall complete at least 10 hours of mandatory training. And then it lists which
2 hours covering.
which 2-hour trainings and what they need to cover. And then for other school board members, on page 10, it says at least 5 hours and shall cover, and then it lists what needs to be covered. So the 10 hours is for new school board members.
And I
Okay.
have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And on this one, is it school calendar hours or is it calendar hours?
As far as the training,
Uh-huh,
I think it's just 10 hours in general.
in general, the calendar.
I think it starts in, because we had a question about this a while back, but I think it starts in the new school year in August. But I'll have to check with Mr. Dean on the term, yeah, how it rolls.
And it's based on the hours that they apply, that they say that this course is worth. Sometimes you go, like if you go to a training in a different place that's not New Mexico School Board Association, it's giving you less hours than the actual training.
Any other questions?
Do we fill in the blanks at this time, or, like, for instance, you have regular board meetings, says the blank of each calendar month is designated as a regular board date. So we could say second and fourth Mondays of every month.
Yes. Any other questions or discussion? This is the first reading. And then Ms. Church, if we could please get it on the website. Thank you.
When it's posted on the website, we need to provide opportunity and venue for them to comment.
Ms. Church, you've done that in the past, right? Put in a venue for them to leave comment or contact us in the past. Okay, we need to make sure that happens. And if that's just emailing us, that's fine.
giving them an opportunity if they have a comment to be able to reach out to us.
Could you please designate a person for that, to receive that comment? And that would probably be best you.
Will you direct them to me, Ms. Church, please? Thank you, ma'am.
And if we get an email, Ms. Begay, can we just send it to you?
You can, unless it's something that you can handle yourself, or if it's regarding one of Mr. Corey's staff, you can reach out to him too. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, item B, first reading of revised policy, BEDB agenda. And so the reason I brought this forward was to see what would best suit us as a board with our policy on public input. And like I said, I talked to our legal counsel about it. She did look at other school boards around the state that they represent. I reached out to a friend in Roswell who sits on their school board, and just to kind of see what works best for each district. But I think I like the idea of just having a general public comment on anything. And I would want to move it right after approval of agenda items, so people have the opportunity to make their comments at that time. And it doesn't restrict them to just agenda items. And I'd love to hear everyone else's suggestions and brainstorming.
I think it's just like you're saying, put public input and then just put letter A on anything public input on agenda items, and then letter B, public comment on anything that they'd like to discuss.
Okay.
I agree too, because oftentimes, Mr. Corey just moves to have public input at the top when we do have people here. So I think it'd be better to have it, like you said, at the top, but it should be general, where they could talk about any of their concerns. You know, speaking as to why they're here, whether it's the action items or just general comment.
Okay.
And I'd like to see that part specified where it is, can include agenda items or general topics as such.
So you'd like both A and B as Mr. Tarasa suggested?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Harden, would you like to weigh in?
I agree with
The-
your comments.
The A and B?
Mhm.
Okay. And we would like it after agenda items?
Right.
Okay. And then also one of the school board presidents from Roswell, former presidents, shared with me language too for the rules about public input. And I think that because what we read is pretty lengthy, and I liked it, so I will share it with you if that's okay. You guys like to hear
Yes.
what they use. It says, please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. Please do not discuss confidential personnel matters, including those of disciplinary nature, regarding any employee of the district. This should be discussed with the superintendent or employee supervisor. Please self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. Right now, we currently have a 5-minute. You may be given a 30-minute or 30-second warning when your time is almost up. If needed to accommodate a large number of speakers and maintain a reasonable meeting schedule, the time limit for all speakers may be shortened. No sharing of time is permitted. Public commentary and dialogue is only guaranteed during the public forum, not throughout the meeting. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. For the safety of yourself and others, signs and placards are not permitted in the boardroom. However, you're invited to express your concerns during the public forum or submit your concerns to the board in writing. And I liked the language if that's something we'd like to consider. Or we keep what we currently have.
That would need to be posted as part of the first reading.
Yes, I understand that. Is there any objection to that, or do you?
I like it.
I think we just review what we currently have and put that together and see if we can steal from each other,
Okay.
And,
possibly.
and on a technical point, we really can't approve any policies in the first reading. We have to wait till the second reading and review any public comment before then, and then we can actually approve changes.
No, I understand that. That's why it's listed under new business. And Stephanie said she'd be more than happy from Walsh Gallegos to help us with any language we need for that policy. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, that moves us to item C, end-of-year presentations for principals. Who's going first?
Oh, you wanna go?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go first.
I can wear my glasses a little bit further in.
I'm giving you a hard time because I like you, John.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so, we're gonna go ahead and everybody is going to highlight their school, but I'm gonna go ahead and, review the district
Okay.
averages real quickly. And Ms. Martinez from Hurley could not make it, so I'll start with her scores after I go over the districts.
Okay.
So everybody has their paper, right? And then I have a PowerPoint for the audience, so it's going on behind you so they can see that as well. So we have iStation is our state assessment for kinder first and second. And if you've noticed, our beginning of the year scores were at 26 for kindergarten, and we ended the year at 76. And if you look at the state was at 35. So that's pretty impressive. And we also have goals for our CLSD grant. We received a grant for over $6 million in CLSD for the last 5 years. And with that grant, we also had to state a goal. And in that goal, it was 75%. And this goal was created by Joyce Barella and the team 5 years ago. So we did meet that goal for CLSD also, which was 75%. So we are at 76, and you can tell there's a big difference between what the state came out and what we are at Cobre. Then you have your first grade.
So that was in kindergarten that you guys said?
That was only in kindergarten. So we were even higher than last year, and I tried to put trend data for you as well. So you have your trend data, and we ended the year last year at 62%. So we had 50% growth in kindergarten, and that's in reading. And then you have first grade. We have ended the year at 58%, and we started the year at 44. The positive side to this is we ended the year last year at 52. So we grew at our end of year scores. And if you look at the state as well, the state ended at 29% at EOY, and we were at 58. And then you go ahead.
The drop from mid-year to,
We sure did. We sure did. Not sure why, but, and I can't tell you that until I would have to research the scores a little more. I'm not sure what happened there.
In comparison to the state, though, I think as someone who teaches first grade, someone who teaches second grade, this is tremendous growth.
It is, it's a huge growth. So then you go into your second grade. We finished last year at 64. So this year we finished higher at 72%. We started the year at 41, we went to 72. That's a 30% growth there in second grade reading. And again, we almost met our goal in CLSD for that one as well. So then you go into the math scores. for kinder, first, and second. In kindergarten, we ended the year at 77%. Last year, we ended at 72%. We grew approximately 50 percentage points, the same as in reading. We started the year at 28, we ended at 77. So again, approximately about 50% growth. You look at the state ended the year at 53. So again, we're quite a bit higher than the state. First grade, district-wide, we ended the year at 73%. Last year, we ended at 75, so a little lower than last year. But we did grow by about 46 percentage points because we started the year at 27 and we ended at 73. Then we go to second grade in math, and it looks like we ended at 34. Last year we ended at 42, so we dropped from last year. We did, though, grow from beginning of the year to end of the year, so we went from 13% proficient to 34%, and state ended at 21%.
Bayard had a massive growth
They
in
had,
kindergarten. I
yes.
don't think I've ever seen 90% on
No,
that
so
data sheet.
I'm gonna let John talk about that one.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
I'm not gonna steal your thunder on that one, John. Okay? Then let's go ahead and go to the IMASA, which is our third and fourth and fifth data for reading. And if you look at our districts, last year, we ended at 35 in third grade. This year, we ended at 43, so I'm happy about that, 8% percentage growth from last year to this year. We started the year at 20, we ended at 43. So 23 percentage points growth on that. And again, we are higher than the state. Fourth grade, we ended last year at 45, this year 54, again, higher than the year before. 15% beginning of the year, end of year 54, so quite a bit of growth there. And the state was at 40% compared to us at 54. And then we have our fifth grade. Fifth grade was last year at 43. This year we went down 2 percentage points. We ended the year at 41. However, we did do a growth from 34 to 41 percentage points. State was at 36, so we are higher than the state in fifth grade. Language usage, which is grammar, is third grade. We, at the district, we ended at 57. Last year, we ended at 38, so quite a bit of difference between last year and this year at the end of the year. We did grow 22 to 57. And then also, again, state ended at 39, we ended at 57. And then you have our fourth grade. Fourth grade was 45% last year. This year, we ended at 49%. So again, 4% higher than last year. And state was at 30, ended the year at 39. Again, we ended at 49. Fifth grade, we had 48% last year. This year, we went down 1 percentage point to 47. However, we did a growth from 34 to 47. State was at 39%. We were at 47. So math for third, fourth, and fifth. Third district last year was 14%. This year was 25%. Again, an increase of 11%. We did do quite a bit of an increase from beginning of year. So we had a 23% increase from beginning of year. However, we were lower than the state in math in third grade. You can see math in the state ended at 28. We were at 25. So now we have math for fourth grade. Math for fourth grade, last year we ended at 20. This year we ended at 28%. And we had a 25% growth in fourth grade, and we were even with the state. State ended at 28, we ended at 28. And then fifth grade, last year we ended at 34% in math. This year we ended at 26, we went down. And also we are lower than the state in fifth grade in math. Fifth grade in math at state level is 35, and we are only at 26%.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So So these fifth graders are gonna go to the sixth grade,
Yes,
so how are you gonna accomplish that they step up on their
Well,
map?
That's a loaded question. There's a lot to that. I think for us, if we do stick with a 4-day work week, we want to make sure that our pacing is where it should be, because I know some of the teachers did not get through the curriculum because they weren't pushing fast enough. So we want to make sure that we stay with the pacing guide. So one of the trainings that we will have at the beginning of the year is with some trainers to make sure that our pacing guide aligns with our school calendar.
Thank you.
And these fourth and fifth graders were our COVID students, correct?
And they were our COVID students.
This particular page has a lot of 0%,
At the beginning of the year, yes, sir.
and middle of the year as well.
Yeah, you have one, you have Central, right?
Central and
was,
San Lorenzo has
Central
both the.
at San Lorenzo, yes, third grade, yes, sir.
So how do we get a 0?
Well, you have no students at proficient, no students at grade level. That means not one student was at grade level on this assessment. Because we're only talking about students that are at grade level. So that question, I would probably talk to the principals on that one, right, for more details. Okay, so then we go into reading proficiency for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's again, IMASA as well. So you have, I'm not gonna cover this too much because I know we're gonna have the principal go over this. So you have the SNEL data and then the high school data, and I'm gonna let them present out on that. But I did wanna go back and present out on Hurley, since Laverne Martinez is not here. So we'll go back and, again, Hurley, in kindergarten, they ended the year at 67%. So they started at 15 and ended at 67. Again, an exceptional growth there, higher than they did the year before. I remember talking to the kinder teacher the year before, and she, that was a hard class. I remember Maricela was saying that she struggled. So if you look at that cohort, they ended the year at 47%, so that's your cohort for first grade, right? So you always look at that 47%. So they came in first grade and they tested at 57, which was somewhat correlates to that 47, but they ended the year pretty low compared to the other groups. And I do remember Maricela saying that that was a hard class. They struggled quite a bit. So then you have your first grade data here, which was the first grade. They ended last year at 64. This year they ended at 40. Remember, that's that cohort from Maricela's class, okay? And I know there were quite a few retentions in that. Not sure in kindergarten this year. So I think she did 3 or 4 in kindergarten this year. We had second grade, you have 67, ended the year last year, this year again, about the same, 67. So beginning of the year was 72. So in second grade, there wasn't a lot of growth, and I cannot really speak to that. I think the principal can do a better job at speaking to why there was a drop in growth there. It was a 5% drop in growth.
Can I ask a
Mhm.
question?
Sure.
Is there gonna be summer school for these kids?
There is summer school. Yes. But we can only offer it for, we have 14 teachers that wanted to teach, so I can't open it to everyone, right? We have to be selective on who we offer it to. So I'm very proud about having 14, because we have to keep it at 4-1 for it to be, and that's we're going with, it's called Summer Literacy Program. We're partnering with the state, and with the Summer Literacy Program, we will have to stay with the confines of their rules for this program, and the rule is 4-1. So we've already, every teacher, I told them you're gonna choose your own students who you feel will benefit from it. So they've already chosen their 4 kiddos.
So what happens to the ones that are left out?
They can go and apply, there are online sessions for those kiddos. And I'm not sure who their teachers will be. We can't force teachers to work in the summertime, right? So,
Well, and I'm assuming teachers made wise choices
did.
and got the kiddos that needed the most support.
they did.
Okay.
They recruited who they thought would come also, because we don't want to bring in kids that aren't going to come.
Right, okay.
And, but if kids really need it, I'm sure you've heard it on the radio. It's been on the radio advertised every single day. So if your students want summer reading support, they can register online. It's at newmexicolitteracy.org. And they will definitely get a spot, but it will be an online spot.
And I heard that it's 8 hours a day, or
It's-
5 days.
No, it's half a day. What we're doing is half, and most everybody is half a day. You can't keep a kid on for 8 hours. An adult can't even be on for 8 hours.
I thought the advertisement said 8 hours.
I don't know, I can't even imagine
I don't,
somebody
I
staying
think
on for 8
Silver's
hours.
doing like a half day or early release.
Yes.
8:30 to 1.
We're doing in person, this is what everybody in the state's doing. We're doing in person from 8 to 12. We're doing it for 4 weeks, and most everybody's doing it from 4 to 6 weeks, 8 to 12 or 8:30 to 12:30. But the online portion, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But I can't imagine a kiddo.
Even
work-
especially a kindergartner for 8 hours on a
No,
computer.
I can't even be on 8 hours. No, I have a hard time with an hour, so, but I don't know. So that's Hurley, and then we go to 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We'll wanted to point this out. I know the principals are gonna be pointing out some of these highlights at their school. So one of the highlights at Hurley is our 4th grade teacher, Denise Placencio. She scored 79 percentage points in reading, which was the highest out of all the schools, and if you compare it to the state was only at 40. So congratulations to Denise Placencio.
And not to mention, she started with 16%.
Yes, thank you. I'm
You're
so glad
welcome.
I'm so glad you pointed that out. Then we go on to language usage, and we had our teacher in 3rd grade at Hurley. I'm going to highlight her as well. That's Bree Martin. She went from 23 to 85. Huge growth there. State only ended the year at 39. She ended at 85. Again, she was the highest teacher in all the schools in 3rd grade for language usage. And then we go into the math for Hurley. Again, we have Denise Placencio. Again, she scored the highest in math, and she went from 0% proficient to 58% proficient. If you look at the year before, 4th grade ended at 10% the year before. And look where she ended this year, 58. And this is in math. And usually our math scores, if you've been looking at the trend data, 20%, 25%, 30%. So 58, pretty impressive. And then you go into, and then that's it. So, and then I also put in your packet some intervention data. I think it's really important that you all see the impact that our interventionists have on our students. So each interventionist turned in their data. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but I did just a real quick synopsis on the 2 interventionists at Hurley. The principals will be doing this for their schools, but we have Tara Hare, who is the interventionist at Hurley, and she mostly does kindergarten through 3rd grade. And so in her kindergarten through 2nd grade, she does have 14 students, and 3 out of the 14 moved to grade level. And also, all of them showed growth. And then you go to the backside of that. She did do 1 5th grader, a new kiddo that came in, and then she did 3 other 3rd graders. And she had 4 kids in 3rd through 5th. And out of those 4 kids, 2 of them went to grade level. Okay? Then you have Miss Taylor. she was a part-time interventionist, part-time coach. So she did intervention on 7 students, and they were mostly the upper grade students. And out of those 7 students, 5 of those moved to grade level.
Amazing.
Amazing.
These people are miracle workers.
They are miracle workers, yes.
They make these teachers' jobs a lot easier. I'm glad we could keep them one more
Yeah,
year.
me too. Any questions in regards to district scores or Hurley scores, since I'm presenting out for Ms. Martinez?
What's the name of the teacher that did so well?
The which teacher?
The teacher that
In
did so
Hurley?
well? Yes,
Denise Plasencia.
thank you.
She's 4th grade, and then you also have Bree Martin in 3rd grade.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Chavita. Who'd like to go first?
Dan, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're standing up there.
Well, now I am. I thought she was actually fixing it for me before I began. Let me turn it off for Mr. Olson.
Oh, and
I was mistaken.
I have a quick question, Ms. Chavita. What's with the displays up here?
Oh, so the displays, we have 8 teachers attending the CLSD convening. Again, this is our 5th year in the CLSD. Again, we received the most money out of the whole state. We received over $6 million. I think there's maybe 13 to 15 schools that receive CLSD money. This is the last year of our money. We did get a little bit of a rollover, hence why we are having interventionists next year. That's the reason why, because we got a little rollover. Now, during the CLSD convening, they asked the CLSD schools to create centerpieces for the conference tables. And so we had our middle school created 4, and our high school created 5. And so these will be on the center of the table at the convening. And then we also, we will receive hopefully a $1,000 award if we get in 1st, 2nd, or 3rd place. And if you can see, you will definitely win an award here. These are just, I think these are 4 of the high schools. No, 1, 2, these are all of the high schools. Yeah. So wish us luck trying to get us, get these 2 out.
I love the Lorax one.
Hence why we're taking 5 parts.
Okay. The reason I'm starting first is B for Bayard, so it's first.
Yes, David.
Last time I was trying to hide and let C go first before B, but it didn't work out.
I will follow you.
Okay. I decided to do mine a little differently to just pinpoint it for Bayard Elementary School. And basically, if you look at the first quadrant, it says growth 23-24. So kindergarten and iStation for reading grew at 41%. For 1st grade, and then from last year's score went up 23 points or 23%. We're the 2nd highest out of all the elementary schools. And I'm very competitive. I like to have competition, and I know Hurley beat me on several occasions. And San Lowe's ended up beating me too on IMS quite a bit. So 1st grade, our growth was 25% for that year. Last year, we went 19 points higher. We're the highest in the district out of all the elementary schools for 1st grade. 2nd grade, we grew 46% for the year. We went up 14 points for the year before. We're 2nd highest in all the elementary schools. If we go for math, we grew 62% in kindergarten for iStation math, and we grew 25 points from the year before. We're the highest in the district. 1st grade, we grew 63% from beginning year to the end of the year. We had a 32% growth. We're the highest in the district. 2nd grade, we grew 30%. We're 15 points from last year. And Mrs. Tovar really honed in on math last year in 2nd grade. So Betty, you did an awesome job. Even though our score was negative 15%, we are 2nd highest in the district for math for all the elementary schools.
So, Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Does Mr. Rosa, does he work with K through 5 or?
He works, mainly he does second, third, and fourth, and fifth.
Okay.
So he does second through fifth.
And is he still part-time?
Yes, he's part-time.
Okay.
So he does an excellent job as well, and I have some data from him. If you look at IMESA, we grew 13% for third grade for reading. We did have a teacher that ended up leaving in the middle of the year, or in January, and then the person that took over, she had a death in the family, her mom passed away, so we did have some struggles, and we had some struggles also in fifth grade as well with the same situation. I guess when they saw Mr. Olson, they ran away. We had another fifth grade teacher that left in the middle of the year as well, or in February. So we went down 3 points from the year before in third grade. We're the second highest in the district. We're above state by 5%, 5 points. The next year, fourth grade for reading, we grew for reading 39%. Last year's growth, we're 14 points ahead. We're the second highest in the district. We beat the state by 12%. Fifth grade, we're a -3. And from last year's growth, we're -5. But we're still second highest in the district. In the state, we're a -3 for reading. For third grade, we had a growth of 24%. We grew 8% from the year before. All of them were third, the highest in each one of them. We're still above the state by 14%. Fourth grade grew 17% that year. From the year before is 5% growth. We're still third in the district. And we're still 4% higher than the state. Fifth grade was at 16% growth throughout the year. Last year's growth, we went by 10 points up higher. We're still at third place with elementary schools, and we were above by 9% from the state. In math, we had 32% growth in third grade. She really worked hard, Mrs. Zuniga. And when she came in February, by the time she started really honing in and teaching third grade material. And then we grew 17% from last year. We're first in the district. We're above state by 4%. Fourth grade we grew 20%. We grew 5% higher than the year before. We're second place in the district for all elementary schools. We're still behind. We're in New Mexico State math. We're a -4%. Fifth grade, we had 19% growth. We lost 22% from the year past. We had a change of teachers as well. We were in last place in the district under elementary. We're a -16% in New Mexico State from the state of New Mexico. So any questions on that one? No. Okay. So then if you go to the second one, the one that's really colorful, it looks like kind of like Christmas in a way, red and green and some yellow. We had, some of you, I'm not sure if you have Clyde Montes first for special ed, or if you have Ramos.
Clyde.
Clyde.
Okay, so let me go to Clyde. Clyde focused on third through fifth. He mainly did pull-out. He went to his classroom. It was all in his IEPs. And so I had to follow the law. So I could not budge from pull out for his classes. I could not go inclusion, which I think is the best way to go. For iStation, he did get, it was 100% growth for everybody. Reading, which was the IMESA reading, third through fifth, was 50% growth. And basically, that was, they had to read by themselves without any kind of support from the state. If they're in special ed, sometimes, well, they have the option, if it's in their IEP, that it could be read to them. Of course, reading can't be read to them. So our scores were a lot lower with that. And remember, all this is pull-out. Then language arts was 75%. And most of these kids, some of these kids are pulled out specifically to Mr. Montes, and others were just monitored, but they're still in special ed, so they stayed in the classroom the whole time. and never received services because they were in a transition stage. So,
I have a question. Can we actually be discussing this using the names of the students?
well, I didn't put it on here. I put yours on here, but maybe I didn't need to include that. But I didn't put it on with, I'm not talking about it.
Okay, because generally, the information that we get is also posted on the website.
Oh, this is my own material.
Okay,
This isn't in the packet.
This
Okay.
is not in the packet.
so.
So you could give it back to me.
Yeah.
at the
we
very
can
end.
refrain-
As long as he just talks about growth numbers, we're okay.
Yeah, talking about both numbers, but not names.
Yes.
And maybe let's keep it to, special education at Bayard Elementary. We won't mention
Okay.
the teacher's name either.
Okay, sure.
And you can just simply say student one, student two, whatever.
Oh, well, I'm not gonna,
I don't
I'm not
think we
going into
should-
that
I don't
much
think we should
detail.
go
I'm
into
not
that
going
much
into
detail.
any detail.
Okay.
In the math, we grew 75%, so, for IMESA. And then the other person at Bayard Elementary, K through second, it should be on your second page. iStation grew 91%. And this was a combination of pullout as well as inclusion. So, then for IMESA reading, we had 100%, iStation math, we went up 100%. The others, I don't want to really say because it's only 2 students, and I didn't think that would be really a good percent to use. So we do have also other things related to this. We have, of course, my math interventionist. And for the iReady, there was a growth of 100% on iReady. For second grade, we had 80% growth in third grade, which you don't have that information, and which is all math. And then also fourth grade, we were at 100% growth, and fifth grade, we're at 80% growth. And of course, Melissa Gallardo always does an awesome job. A lot of her students, which you have that data, showed a lot of growth as well.
I'm gonna hand back mine with
Yes,
student
could you
names.
please give me that back? I apologize for that particular part.
We can still keep this white copy, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not specific to any child.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Olson.
You're welcome. Any questions?
Thank you.
Ms. Ogas, you ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Okay, so as you look at the scores, you see that we are not exactly where we want to be, but we are working together to make as much progress as we can within our students. We have a lot of positive changes going on, thanks to you all, and that includes you all having high expectations of us, the principals, of us changing our mindset and having high expectations of our teachers and staff, and then the teachers and staff having high expectations of every student. I was proud of my kids of what we've accomplished this year. I mean, in kindergarten, they showed a 50% increase. In first grade, looking at the reading, they showed a +3, that was okay, and then second grade, 64% increase. In kindergarten for math, they showed a 31%, first 18%, and second 19%. That was in math. So where the problem stems is the IMESA, and that's because that's the third, fourth, and fifth grade. And like Ms. Begay stated, these are our COVID kids. And so we're struggling to get them there, but we're fighting, and we're gonna do everything that we can to make sure that they do reach the potential that they need to be, and that is by setting high expectations of them as well as using our curriculum at 100%, which was a big change that we had to make this year. Just using our SAVIS program, our iReady program. Also working on attendance was a big deal, because, you know, a lot of the things that was happening is that since COVID, they just felt like they didn't have to come to school. And this year, we really worked at making sure that the kids were there on time and that they were there diligently. You did send us to RCA, to the Ron Clark, which you all know, I'm wearing black, not really, because I'm altruismo. But we also have set our pacing guides for next year already. We've already worked on that during our PLCs to improve. And the students keeping track of their data is very important as well. So I'm looking at it, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished this year, but I'm already working on a plan for what are we doing next year to make improvement. Because we do want the kids to leave our elementary schools prepared to go on to middle school, whether it is in middle school, whether it's in math or reading, ELA. Our data is improving, and it's improving by our monthly progress monitoring, which we've also taken on doing a data wall, giving data for each student individually and monitoring it every month, and setting high expectations for every single one of our students. And a lot of it is having the special ed instructors coming into our classes for inclusion. Family engagement is extremely important. If we do want our kids to be successful and we do want our scores to be improved by next year, we need to make sure that we have a lot of family engagement, and that our students are engaged in their lessons and the lessons are student-led, and that we see a lot more positive climates in our schools, and that we look at the growth that these kids are making. We can't show great changes overnight, but we're showing the growth, and we're showing it, we're comparing growth to the scores that we're seeing today. But if you look at it, some of it, like my I-Station and IMES math was 0%, and it went up to 29%. So that means 29% of those kids were on target by the time they left, and they were on 0 when they arrived. And just all of us being accountable at all times. Do you have any questions? So,
Have you seen any resources that contributed to improving scores that weren't renewed for this new coming year?
resources as far as,
Personnel, or even the curriculum or anything else?
well, if you're talking about a program, there is no program. It's just all of us being accountable. Having a data wall, having data for each child and monitoring it during PLCs. Just making sure, walkthroughs from myself, observations, making sure the kids are engaged in the lesson and not just sitting there. Those are the things that will drastically show improvement in our scores for next year.
What about interventionalists?
Interventionists,
Counselors?
we are able to keep one intervention, which is the lower grades, K through third, and, K through second, but we have the MLSS, which means that all teachers should be doing interventions in their classrooms at all times anyway, for differentiated instruction.
You said you kept one. Were there more than one?
There were two. There was one for the younger and one for so one for K2, one for 3-5. And this next year, we will keep the K2.
Were they specific to English, math?
They were specifically for, it was a structured literacy grant, the CLSD grant, and so they were geared toward reading and language arts.
Or so to me, I'm just trying to see what we can get back.
Well, having the special ed teacher in the classroom also helps because they're receiving that intervention, really. All of the kids are getting that additional help. So our goal is to make sure that every student is successful, every student is understanding the lesson, and every student is happy to be there and to learn. Kids soak everything up like a little sponge. So it is our job to make sure that we provide them with enough information so that they can have that knowledge.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Short and simple, Mr.
Sorry, it took so much time.
Ms. Biebel, are you ready? All right.
Yes.
Where does this,
I know I mixed it up. So it starts, this is
you can have
cover,
one if you want.
so it's this one.
Mine is kind of everything together.
All right, here's a statement.
Well, just starting on ice station, of course, maybe they're not as good as what we would like them to be, but of course, I think we can all relate to that. Kindergarten, I did show a lot of growth. I would like to add that I feel like some of my data has been a little bit tweaked, I guess, because we have gotten a lot of new students this year at San Lo, almost 10 new students. And they've come throughout the year. And so whenever our numbers are fairly low anyway, whenever you add a student, and then we start testing that student, it affects our data a little bit. And so I think from beginning of the year, middle of the year, to the end of the year, you kind of see that a little bit. As we get those new students, it affects, our numbers look a little wonky, so to speak. So in kindergarten, we actually gained 2 students from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and they both came second semester. And I think that reflects that data just a little bit, even though 62% is okay. Obviously, I'd want it to be higher. First and second grade, we took a huge dip. And the reason behind that, or at least most of it, is that my first and second grade teacher went on maternity leave in February. And obviously, good instruction is reflected here. And even though I will speak greatly to the subs that came in and took their places, we did go through 4 long-term subs during that time. So the structure for the students, the accountability, some of the things that they did probably weren't what they needed. Hopefully we can make that up to them next year. My second graders, who I tend to be the most worried about at this time, we made some changes, some staff changes. I'm moving a really strong teacher into the 3rd grade, and I'm hoping that that will help those students come up.
But your middle of years information is spot on, right?
Right on.
All
I
the
mean,
way
so
to-
you can look across, and so obviously you can tell something happened, and the teacher left. And teachers are allowed to have babies, and so, you know, we'll make the best of what we have. Actually, I will say that San Lorenzo had 3 teachers this year that had babies, so, something.
And how are you gonna address that?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How many of those kids that went into San Lorenzo came from other elementary schools?
In the district? Some, not all of them. We did get some students from Silver. We've had, I think I don't think we've had any far. We did have 2 come from Washington, towards the end of the year. But other than that, they were either district students or they came from Silver.
Thank you.
In math, again, you see the same trend. My kindergarten teacher, who, you know, was a retired teacher who just, you know, took us on the first 3 days of school. She did an amazing job, and she's actually super strong math teacher, I feel like. Those kindergartners rocked math this year. And she is actually who I'm moving into the 3rd grade. And so I'm hoping that we can make up lost time for those second graders that kind of didn't get what they deserved. I did bring also, well, I'll speak to it first. So for the IMESA, we did show growth across the board. Again, in 5th grade, you can tell, and I went through and I looked student by student, and of course, this was affected by new students coming in to our school. So if you actually took our new students out, which we don't want to do, they're ours, we don't want to do that, but if they did come in 2nd semester, those students did, if we just went from who we tested at the beginning of the year to who we tested at the end of the year, that growth would have been higher, if that makes sense. 3rd grade, let's see, language usage, I thought they did pretty good on that piece. We were at 64% in 3rd grade, 80% in fourth, and 70% in 5th grade. So language usage, evidently we have learned how to teach that. Math, obviously, you know, across the board, across the state, the district, everything, and, you know, it just makes me sad that our math scores continue to decrease. And so next year, we've talked as a team,
some things that some changes that we plan to make to bring these scores up, because we obviously want them to do better than this.
I think there needs to be a shift statewide. The focus right now is on literacy, and literacy is important, but there needs to be a balance across the board.
So what I did bring for you, because this showed proficiency, but sometimes as important as that is growth. And so I printed out the achievement summary, and if you would look at it here. So where I think we did a really good job across the board. Was if you look at the growth, we were at 64% of our students in the third grade were above expected growth. So even though they maybe didn't hit the proficiency mark, which is our goal, that's our aim, obviously, but they did, even if they were, red students or yellow students, they still made a huge amount of growth, 64% above expected. In fifth grade, it was 78% of those students made above expected growth. So they were starting low, and maybe they didn't really make, where we want them to be, but they did in fact make huge growth across the board. Also in language usage, in third grade, 86% of those students made above expected growth. And then again in math, and you can see, even here, even though some of them made above expected growth, our third graders especially, that's where we need to work. We need some work in there. Any questions? I did have, I don't know how Hurley got it, but I wish I would have done my data different on interventionists to see how many of them reached grade level, and I didn't, but my interventionists are amazing, and those students made huge growth, so I don't know where that
I gave it to them.
Okay.
Whatever your interventionist gave me, I gave it to them without the names. So they do have,
Okay.
it's for Ross.
So I think what I will do, because I liked it, is I would like to see how many of those students did get to grade level. I really liked that data, and so we'll have to go back and do that as well. So besides not allowing anybody to have babies next year, great skill. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Biebel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
Want me to go? For the high school? Sure. Sure. All right. Take a folder, pass the folder down, please. All right, so we've got the high school data for reading projected at first glance. High school data looks pretty dire. So I'm going to direct your attention to something in just a second that I'd like to use to help explain part of this. So the percentage points that we see up there for beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year data is a percentage of students' proficiency based on a STAR assessment score called a scaled score. Scaled scores are calculated based on the number of correct responses and the difficulty of questions. STAR is a SMART assessment, so with every question answered correctly, the next question gets harder. Proficiency is based on national scale score standards. So we're going to look at ninth grade real quickly. I see that you guys have all opened your folder, and that's fine. If you want to look at this, actually, let's look at this one real quickly. For reading, let's start with reading. So this is actually the CHS STAR growth report for reading, and I put 2 arrows on it. So the red arrow is highlighting the scaled score, that is the scaled score average for the high school. So at the beginning of the year, the pre-test, it was a 1,084, and the post-test in May, it was a 1,094, okay? I'm going to jump backwards a little bit and tell you about the scaled score and the proficiency rating, how STAR uses proficiency, or measures proficiency with the national standard. The national standard for ninth grade beginning of the year proficiency is 1,116. So I'd like you to go back to that red arrow right there and look at the high school average score. I don't even know if I need to go on. Check out our numbers up there. Like, why do our numbers look like that? It's because our students are testing at a 6th grade reading level. So beginning of the year, the scale score cutoff for proficiency was at or above grade level for freshmen was 1,116. 21% of our 9th graders were at that level. At the end of the year, because it's a SMART test and it grows with them, so at the beginning of the year is the beginning of 9th grade. At the end of the year, they should be getting an end of 9th grade year score. At the end of the year, the score is the at or above, so to meet proficiency, they have to score at 1,127. So we had 20% of our 9th graders meet that. So in this packet, what I put together for you guys, so you got that. In addition to that, you've got, I just put some of the numbers together for you so you can see them like at a glance. These tables are at a glance. And then, so you can go back and be like, where'd you get these numbers from? For all of these numbers, they're on the pages that follow. And I'll show you how to look at the pages that follow in just a second, okay? So these are, if you look at the pages that follow, so this is reading. The date at the top tells you if it was the beginning of the year or the middle of the year. So this first page in this reading packet, the test was conducted from August 2nd to September 22nd, so this was a beginning of the year test. And this is data for the 9th graders for beginning of the year, including those scores, okay? And the breakdown, all the categories for where the scores, where the students fit, how many students fit into each category based on those scaled score breakdowns, okay? The next page that follows that one is the end of the year score for reading. So I'm going to speak to Ms. Beagle. I appreciate you for bringing up that there's growth in the categories that are not proficient. And so if you look at the categories that are not proficient, not the numbers that are up here, but the numbers in the categories that are below, like on-watch intervention or urgent intervention, there was fluidity between those categories. You could see students moving up. Sometimes students move down. So speaking with my colleague in the back, it's hard to get a high school student to actually want to take these tests and to want to do good on these tests. I can speak to students that are in honors classes this year who are testing at like 5th grade reading levels, but they're in high school honors English classes. And based on STAR, they're at a 5th grade reading level. So.
How come for the end of the year, 15 kids didn't take that test? Did they just not show up, or?
They might have been gone at baseball or softball, or attendance at the high school is. We did it in that last week, seniors last week. Is when we tried to catch them all, and attendance was spotty that week. You can see, so like, for example, on this one, so if I say this is the whole school, it's actually 219 students out of 287. So 219 students, we were able to collect data for both tests, beginning of the year and the end of the year.
Okay.
For 219 of our students. That's because some of them maybe started the year with us and didn't finish the year with us. That could be a reason. I'm also trying to catch them on that test day around final exams or around the projects, all of the other things that are taking place at the end of the year there. I would say a push to try and catch everybody testing for future years would be great to make sure we have really good data. One of the things you don't have, they really break it down, these reports break it down. And our interventionist was provided with like, here are the 5 students that are in the red for this grade level. But I will speak to high school. It's also hard in high school to do intervention because where do you pull a kid from? Do you pull them from that? No. Pull them from language arts? No. But my band teacher will tell you that band is just as important as those 2 subjects, so where do I pull them from? And so it is very difficult. She did an amazing job, and we did find a way to pull kids. We also attempted to build intervention in during advisory, during the school day. I would hope that the high school would have an opportunity to do a better job doing that next year, have the interventionists actually design interventions to take place during advisory. I have some ideas for that for moving forward. One of the other scores that I didn't point out, so there's the blue arrow on there too. STAR gives you a grade level equivalent score. I think that one's super useful to point out. That's why I like STAR, because when you're talking to parents about the STAR report and about their student score, it's hard to say, well, your student scored it at 1,084, because parents are like, oh, okay, that sounds good. But what does that mean? Well, in STAR, 1,084 means that the student's scoring at a 6th grade and 8-month reading level. That's what that means. So the 1,116, that's scoring at beginning ninth grade. That's what that scaled score means. And so I do appreciate that they do put grade equivalents on this. So in addition to seeing the scaled score, how they're scoring the students, you can also see the grade level equivalents. That might not be on the data behind. But if you guys would be interested in seeing data for grade level equivalent breakdowns, I could work on those kinds of reports for you as well.
Anyone have any questions?
Just on the students not tested, were these in different, like, very different days? Because you have like 7 one, 15 on the other, and 5 on the other. It was,
I'm not sure what you mean days. So the students were tested either in their math class or their language arts class.
okay. Yeah, because you have one at 7, one at 15, and one at 5 not tested.
So the dates are at the top. So if you look at the dates at the top right
Okay.
here, so that tells you the range of dates that we
For
used for
6
that
weeks.
assessment.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's why some.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So yeah, catching the students, like I said, we might have started the year with a lot of students that left to go to Silver, left town, got suspended, expelled, whatever. May not have finished the year with some students. Attendance was rocky there at the end with athletics and such, so.
So the data that you have here, this is just a snapshot. It's not a sequence in terms of time, like the beginning year, anything, it's just a
So you
snapshot.
can, if you take them apart,
I can kind of see them in between.
you've got a beginning
yeah.
and a middle, so, and that's why I put them both in there. So like the first one, in this packet, this is the reading packet. First page is ninth grade, says ninth grade at the top, and it's the beginning of the year. Second page is ninth grade, end of the year. So if you took those two and put them next to each other, then you could see.
Yeah, you can actually overlay them.
The yellow band's got, looks like the red band might have, let's see. The yellow band shrank. And that one, yep.
No,
Good
the,
question.
the part is that they really don't go up towards the benchmark.
So you can see, that's why I wanted to pull this one for you. I know that instruction didn't stop at sixth grade. And this includes everybody, even our seniors. We just graduated a whole class of wonderful seniors, right? This includes all of their data too. So the average reading grade level at the high school is sixth grade and 8 months. I'm sorry, that was at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, it was seventh grade and 2 months. So they're not gonna reflect in the data that's shown up there because that only includes students that are proficient, that are above that scaled score cutoff. Our image right there.
It's a little while to digest this.
But I'll be here for a while. Sure you wanna follow that? Sure, okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna wake you guys up, yeah. Good evening. Okay, if you look at SNEL, on our reading proficiency data, we did go up 12% with our sixth graders in terms of reading. Our seventh grade, we went up 29%, so we had a good jump there. Eighth grade is 18%. Language usage, we went up just barely with our sixth graders, 2%. Seventh grade, 4%. Eighth grade, 5%. In terms of math, we went up quite a bit. Sixth graders went up 15%. Seventh grade went up 5%, and eighth grade went up 15%. So some of the strategies that we did is we were intentional with our PLCs bi-weekly. So we had an agenda, we looked at struggling students, we looked at our data, we looked at outcomes, we said, okay, this is what we're gonna do as a team. So our instructional coach, there was always an admin there, and our teachers as part of those PLCs bi-weekly. Okay, so we were intentional about setting those up based on our New Mexico Dash Plan goals, as well as our MLSS goals. in terms of more student-driven curriculum versus teacher-driven. With our testing strategies, I met with the teachers at the beginning of the year. I said, what do we need to do? Because, of course, we need to try to accommodate our teachers and our proctors who are doing all the testing. They said, spread it out. Don't wait until the end of May. When we're struggling, there are all these athletics going on. We do have a big attendance problem in the spring because of athletics. And so they said, try to spread them out. So strategically, we set a schedule. Right after the, beginning of the new year, I met with our teachers, our leadership team, and we said, we're gonna strategize. This is how we're gonna break it up. We're gonna give the kids some breaks, but we're gonna be strategic. Also, we grouped them different. In addition, we did grade level assemblies. We talked about incentives. And I at this age, middle school, they love incentives. So we did bingos, we let them have, bingo day, everybody that had some growth in not just one area, but both areas. We gave away gift cards. Also, in terms of incentives, we talked to the kids. Something that we're gonna do next year and this was not my idea, it was our instructional coach's idea. She said, we really need to be strategic about doing a test prep, like in service with every single class. So every single class, she went to every class in the whole building, and I kinda helped her, but she was on a roll. And so we only did the last 10 minutes of each class, and we went in there and we talked about, process of elimination. When you take tests, there's always, for sure, like they wanna mix up with your brain and they wanna give you that, stress. And then we talked about that, and we talked about it's okay to be stressed, but think about it strategically. And so we did that in every class, but next year we're gonna do it every 9 weeks, because we did it too late, I feel like. And even though they went up, and I challenged my 7th graders, I said, guys, you're a little low, but I'm gonna challenge you. And if you guys do it, guess what? We're gonna have a bingo just for you. And I'm gonna give you whatever snacks you want. And so we had like sweet and salty, we had popcorn, we had chips, we had candy. I hope their parents don't get upset with their, dentist bills, but who cares? The kids did really well. Also, we had some really good curriculum. Our teachers went to reading apprenticeship. They loved it. They got a lot of strategies there. We also got No Red Ink. We got IXL for our math. We have a really good reading interventionist. All the staff is really good, but Mrs. Hartman did a great job, as well as our instructional coach. Mrs. Hartman dealt with 46 kids. We still have a lot of work to do. Like Mrs. Meek said, our struggles are with reading. But if we're intentional with building up with whatever curriculum we have, Sunday is a great tool to use at the middle school. And Mrs. Hartman is really good at it. And she worked with a lot of kids. She worked with 46 kids. Our math interventionist was Ms. Barragan. She worked with 33 kids. And you have your data there in front of you in terms of the interventionist data. We did make some gains. Do we have a ways to go? Absolutely. I think like Mrs. Ogas reiterated is, if you have high expectations, your kids will perform. I think all our teachers were on board in terms of our strategies to just test. We had a testing schedule, we adhered to it. We did have a lot of kids out, but we caught up with them. We said, we need to test you. We did some one-on-one testing. We just tried. We worked really hard on our testing this year. And again, we had a lot of high expectations for these kids, and I feel like they really did perform as well as our staff. Any questions?
Just, the overriding scores, and it's gonna take a while to pick up, and I understand that. And I'm glad glad we're having this conversation, and I look forward to the conversation at the beginning of the year of the strategies that will address this throughout the following school year. I appreciate your efforts.
Anybody else? And the teacher that you mentioned, will she be back? You know, Ms. Court?
I don't know which
Mrs. Hartman?
She will be back. She'll be the reading room usually.
She will.
That we get to keep over here.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that takes us, principals, please feel free to get up and go spend time with your families. But item D moves us to update on student growth, special education.
Ms. Meeks, did you want these back?
Ms. Luckhurst, if you're ready. Enjoy your summer. I know you guys work a few more days, but you guys earn that well-deserved summer break. Thank you.
Thank you.
She went back. She went this back. No.
Okay, so starting with, ninth through twelfth grade for STAR. You have a slide, Caitlin?
She just had it up.
Okay. So this first one is student growth for special ed students based on their beginning of year to end of year. How many of them had an increase in their standard score? So ninth grade reading, 84% showed growth, 57% for math. 10th grade, 57% reading, 57% for math. 11th grade, 72% showed growth in reading and 45% in math. 12th grade, 80% showed growth in reading and 60% in math. Okay, for middle school, I have a little bit more data, just because I intentionally took more data for middle of year because we were starting full inclusion. But to start with, this is again just growth from beginning of year, when there was no inclusion, again, to end of year when we did. So reading, sixth grade grew 50%, language usage 71%, and math 64%. Seventh grade showed growth, 85% of students in reading, 64% in language, and 64% in math. In eighth grade, 33% in reading, 33% in languages, and 22% in math.
And you said this was with inclusion?
This is from beginning of year to end of year, just
Just general,
basic
okay,
general
okay.
scale, yep. Okay, so the next one is, prior to inclusion, so this is just beginning to middle of year, okay, this is with no inclusion. 50% of students, showed growth from beginning to middle of year in sixth grade reading, 21% in language, and 50% in math. Seventh grade, 42% growth in reading, 64% in language, and 50% in math. And eighth grade, 55% reading, 22% in language, and 11% in math. So this next one is where it gets interesting. So we had a few, obviously, that didn't grow the way we had hoped, so those are just things that Margaret and I will be talking about next year for how we can improve our instruction with inclusion at sixth grade. In particular, they dropped quite a bit in reading from middle to year to end of year. So again, this is that inclusion window. Math for sixth grade didn't change at all. So again, that's an area that we can maybe strengthen with our inclusion. But language usage for sixth grade went up by 57, which is awesome. So again, the kids being in that environment is great for them to hear their peers, hear their teacher. So that was great growth. Seventh grade reading went up 22, 64%, 50% in language usage, and 42% in math. And then eighth grade reading went down, so again, that's an area we can look at to improve next year. Language usage went up 11%.
and math went up 11%. So again, those two were stronger areas that inclusion showed, definitely some improvement there. Again, our numbers aren't super great, but at least it's a place to start. We're gonna keep going up from there. So the next one, going down to elementary, these are all district-wide scores. So overall in the district, from beginning to end of year, 88% of SPED students showed growth in their scores. For reading, language usage, 76%, math, 88%, which is great. Fourth grade students showed growth, 63% in reading, 72% in language, 90% in math. Fifth grade, 54% in reading, 54% in language, and 40% in math. So those are all promising scores there. And then going down, these are the really fun ones. K2 on iStation. K and 1 and 2 all had 100% growth for our students, special ed, in reading, and in math, K and 1, 100% growth, and 92% for math at second grade. And then my last one here, that's a typo up there, it's actually the proficiency rate. So these are kids who are at grade level that are in special education. So beginning of the year, kindergarten, 20% of them were at grade level in reading. End of year, 73%. Math, 33 at beginning of year and 73 at end of year. First grade, 64% in reading at the beginning and 78 at the end. Math, 21 at the beginning and 73 at the end. Second grade, 6% at the beginning and 73 at the end. And second grade math was 0 at the beginning and 20 at the end. So pretty awesome scores all around for our K2, especially our K5. Again, middle and high school are kind of my main focus right now, to get those interventions and co-teaching and inclusion going, to help those scores continue to get better. Any questions?
Are we looking at doing the full inclusion at the high school?
Yes.
Is there any talk about elementary, or is that just a different?
Elementary, I think they do more of that,
Okay.
you know, in general. But yes, that is also, I'm focusing on high school next year, and then most of the elementaries already kind of do it. But then the ones that need help, we're gonna get those going to more inclusion as well, so.
And then I just had a question about the progress notes.
Yes.
Did we reach our goal?
We did not.
No? Okay.
No, we were actually at 75% district-wide, so we went down a little bit from third quarter, but yeah, we had a couple of schools, I didn't bring that with me, but we had a few schools that were really high, and then we had a couple that were a little bit lower, so we just kind of came out a little bit lower overall than we did for third quarter, so.
Okay, thank you.
So how many SPED students do you have? District?
District-wide, I have like 213, I think, last year.
Out of how many students
Uh,
altogether?
Almost 1,000, so we're over-identified. We have 26% special ed population, which is way too high. We've been talking with teachers and social workers and different providers about making sure that we're being very intentional with students that we have on IEPs. We're also in the process of reevaluating every student in the district to determine eligibility, if it needs to change. We've had a few kids that needed more services than they were given, so we had a few kids that we were able to thankfully get more support for. There are some kids that, again, due to COVID, some of the evaluations didn't get done because that was a crazy time. And so we need to go back and get those caught up and see if any of those kids have now, again, reached grade level and don't need the support anymore. Or again, just making sure that our kids are targeted correctly and that they're getting the right support in the right place at the right time.
Did we have any exit out this year?
We did.
Do you have a number or no?
I don't have the exact number, but we had quite a few, especially fourth quarter. We just missed a few from speech. We just missed a few overall, but yeah, I haven't looked into all that yet, but
Okay,
we did have quite a few.
thank you.
One of the problems we had before was the timeliness of testing a student, and have we gotten that under control, and are we able to meet students' needs as they become identified?
Yes, so I did find a lot of testing, permission to test, and then the actual testing. The whole process should take, for an initial evaluation, should take 60 days. And we were held to that by the state and by the federal government, so we did have some that were not meeting that timeline, so we tightened that up. going forward next year, it should be right where it's supposed to. This year, we did not meet that. And then for reevaluations, we can take more than 60 days if we need to. However, I'd like to try to keep it to 60. We had a few of those that were over as well, but for the most part, the team's been great about really trying to push those timelines to where they should be. So, yeah, that's something we're still working on, but definitely going forward, trying to keep again, parent requests. Parent can make a request verbally, and we have to respond within 15 days, and so getting staff again to be aware that any certified staff can be approached anywhere, and then they need to report that either to the building or to me, so that we can make sure that we get that done. We've had a few upset parents, rightfully so, that they made a request to someone and then it was never followed through. So those are things that, again, we're working on making sure that communication is clear, so that everyone knows, like, if the parent says that, you need to follow through right away, so that kids are not waiting to be tested.
Can I ask a question? 12 plus on special education. How many kids do you have of those?
I think we have 2 right now.
And on that 12 plus education, what do you teach these kids?
So when they get to high school, they start to do transition with DVR, the Department of Vocational Rehab, comes to all of our IEP meetings. And then once they get to the 12 plus, it should mostly be focused on vocational skills, or job skills, or, for kids that are in the 12 plus, it's mostly gonna be job or self-help, those types of skills, so we're working on those. That's another area that needs to be improved overall in the district, so that's something for next year that I'm looking at, improving those supports.
And can those 12 plus kids get art, PE, those kind of classes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to item number 4, our Finance Committee report. We did not meet. We're scheduled to meet next month. And I think we're gonna have our budget approval at the next meeting, the June 10th meeting. Number 5, Audit Committee report.
It was presented last meeting. We haven't had any since.
Okay, thank you. Board members report. Mrs. Harden, do you have anything to report?
Yes, the Special Education, Special Olympics is going to Albuquerque, so a hurrah for those kids. I think it would be awesome for those kids. Thank you.
Ms. Heredia?
I just want to congratulate all of the high school sports, the softball, the track, the baseball, because we haven't got to congratulate them since our last meeting, and they were at their state competitions. And I just want to congratulate all of the graduates and now alumni, and to thank Mr. Gearhart and Mr. Burnett and everyone that helped with the graduation and setting it up. It takes so many long hours, and it was so beautiful. So, and the custodians and everyone for their help in setting it up. And to wish all the teachers and the principals a well-deserved summer break.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo the same thing. Graduation was amazing. I like the tradition of the ducks that they give the speaker. I think it's gonna be a tradition every year. But that's like the payday for teachers and people in education when we get to see those kids walk across the stage. I also was able to attend the mariachi and guitar concert. The students did wonderful. I remember they sang for us in the beginning of the school year, and just the improvement that they made. And one of the kiddos was put on the spot. He hadn't been practiced. He didn't know he was gonna be the main one. I guess another kid got sick, and I was just really impressed. And so it brings me joy to attend those things, because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here, for kids. And so, and just students, staff, teachers, our admin, you guys enjoy your well-deserved summer break. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Velasquez.
Just a couple of things. Had an opportunity to attend the Hurley Elementary Kindergarten graduation, and it was awesome. Again, my hat's off to the people that do the decorations. You walk in there and you're like, wow, the hours that are put behind it, the money spent to put on a venue to that extent was awesome. Also, this morning, I had an opportunity to attend a meeting with Mr. Corey and Mr. Ryan on a meeting with PED, and it's an eye-opener. And what we see number-wise and what PED puts us up against, and I mean, one of the biggest things that came out of me was Cobre's not considered a rural district. How do we not see that as a state? So again, they're just telling us, go back to your legislatures and tell them, because we're losing funding in the 700,000 plus range because we are considered a non-rural district. And I was just shocked. So again, those meetings are very informative to the finance committee. Hopefully I can invite it to the next one. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Terrazas. Vice President Guadiana, do you have anything to report?
I echo the comments, particularly those about graduation and all the promotion ceremonies that went on. My daughter went through one in Snell, and it's very special to them. It's good to see the family support in that, and we still have that strength very much throughout the district. I'm disappointed to hear about the rural classification and questioning is that something that needs to be litigated?
Their explanation to us is it was through census numbers.
Because it's not on the agenda, we really can't get, so it's just a question at some point that we might address. But seems to be chasms between PED and the rest of the school districts, and it's growing. So I appreciate the fact that we've got on the litigation about the 4 days. It needs to go to the next level in terms of the PED having the ability to disband school boards, principals and/or superintendent in cases where they find insufficient progress. It's a strange time, and I appreciate all the effort that goes to that. But simply turning away from an answer that's wrong, we need to pursue in more detail, particularly if it has that much of an impact fiscally.
I just wanted to add one more thing. We'll all be attending the New Mexico School Board Association Conference. Secretary Terrazas, you're not.
Yeah.
But I think Mr. Corey wanted us one night to do some team bonding. So I'm going to let him take the lead on that, but I look forward to it. A lot of the school boards are very cohesive, and you can see the camaraderie and the friendliness. So I look forward to whatever you have planned for us, Mr. Corey.
I don't know about all us competitive people having team bonding.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else to report? Okay, that moves us to item number 7, our superintendent's report. Item A, update on our 4-day week lawsuit.
So this process is actually going very well. I've been a little nervous watching, we get weekly updates, all of us that are part of the litigation process, and it's looking really good. I love reporting that I feel confident that we will have our 4-day week calendar that was approved by all of you. So there's a couple little apprehensions in there, but the PED, just to be honest, has not done an amazing job of coming through and representing themselves. And I know the Superintendent Association has really done a great job of the litigation on our side. So I feel very confident that I think everything will proceed well. A huge plus to here is the date that everything will be settled is actually July 2nd. And the reason that's so important is that July 1st is the first day of our new fiscal year. Everything needs to be in place and ready to go before that date. So I think there was some strategy in setting that date being past that July 1st date. So I think there's been a lot of good moves played on our side. So I feel very confident. I feel good. There can be some loopholes that can come up. There's a court date coming up here, I think in a week, that there's a possibility of things happening, but I just myself, my feeling, my report of coming through the legal counsel on our side, I think everything's looking good. So I've been a little apprehensive to set a calendar out, but I think we talked about it today, and I think we're going to go ahead and send out our 4-day calendar with a little caveat on that, saying that we're not out of the woods yet, but we're feeling confident, and this is something to plan off of, because a lot of those dates will stay set. We have our fall break is in the same place, all of those things. So if a family's trying to plan something, it'll at least give them an idea of where things are. Start of school, end of school, holidays, breaks. But from what I can see, I feel pretty confident. I think we're going to be A-okay coming through for the 4-day. So on to B, revision of the 2023 New Mexico Vista designations. I know it's in your packet. And again, I feel I share the same sentiments, is I feel like sometimes there's a gap between the New Mexico PED and the schools. This was interesting for me. Sometimes the data, when you get data, it's like a mystery, the formula, how they get there. They'll lay it, they'll give you the spreadsheet, and they did on this. And I think it was 32 pages of spreadsheets to get to this number or designations. So this is the first time, happily reporting that before we did have a designation at the high school for our special education students not progressing at the rate that they would like. With the new New Mexico Vistas, if you look at this, all of our schools are traditional now, meaning that we have no designations on any of our schools. This is a huge thing for us because when you do have designations, there's so much more that we have to do and report and be responsible for. So this gives us the freedom of losing that designation and having all our schools be traditional. That allows us as a district to keep moving forward in the way we would like to. And the PED does not step in and intervene as much without that. So I was really excited to see that. I would love to know how they got there, but I tried, to work through the spreadsheet and the numbers. And I guess I don't have a math degree, so I'll be honest that I struggled with that. So, but that's exciting for us to be able to report that our high school designation was removed, and we all have traditional schools across the board.
Mr. Correa, it's interesting that you say, because Teach Plus, one of the organizations I'm involved with, they had a working group with New Mexico Vistas, and they wanted to see a rubric. They said, we need to see a rubric to see how you calculate these scores. And I know the Public Education Department also talked about putting a link on the New Mexico Vistas with the district's literacy plan, as well as beginning, middle, and end of year data. And I think that's coming down in the next couple years. But we're not the only district that's asking, where's the rubric? How is this determined? And I know there was talk from some educational organizations about going back to a letter system. They used to give a letter grade. And so it'd just be nice to see if they can provide that rubric.
The thing for me is, I'm surrounded by some of the smartest people that I know, and if we can't figure it out, there's a problem. It should not be that difficult. And then the next thing I always feel like is we're just gonna keep changing things, you know? It's just like our transportation fund, it took a hit. And, you know, again, we go back and ask, and, oh yeah, well, we took out this piece. So some districts gained millions of dollars and we lost. And, you know, it's kind of a tune across the whole state of, you know, they were calling it winners and losers. But it's sad, you know, we talked about it a little bit before our meeting is, you know, diesel is not getting any cheaper. The route from Lake Roberts to the high school is still the same distance. We still have to do those. And so it's just difficult. I always feel like, you know, they want us to move the needle, but they keep taking away our resources. And so it's sad, the feeling I have sometimes, I should feel that the New Mexico PED is here to help us and assist us. And I just feel like we've got hit a lot as a district this year with our losses in budget, losses in, you know, all kinds of things, resources for our district. So, that's the end of that, and fundraisers are in your packets for your review.
And you need to let them know that you're not the interim superintendent, you're our
Oh,
superintendent.
It depends on which document comes through, they put different things on it, so. Any other questions?
Thank
So-
you, Mr. Corey.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go
I'm sorry. So how are you gonna do the busing? What are your plans?
So we met today, and the state's pretty much said that it's on the district, it's on, you know, it's our responsibility and to try to consolidate routes. So, you know, again, we can do that, and we have been doing that over the years, but my analogy still stays the same, is if we're picking up kids at Lake Roberts and we're picking up kids at City of the Rocks, those buses, I don't care if it's one kid, you still have to go get them.
And you still have to use a bus?
And so, again, then you get into driver scenario. I've actually had the same thing where, is it easier to get a Suburban and go pick up a couple kids and come? But by the time you pay another driver to do that, then it's one of those, it's how efficient is it and the cost effectiveness. So, we work a lot with our contractor, and, you know, this is, I think as a district, we're gonna be okay. I think it's $86,000. I think we'll be all right, taking a hit like that, but at the same time, we gotta quit going backwards on everything. We gotta see some gains, so hopefully, I'm looking forward, hopefully, to the session this summer, and I would love to see some changes during the session this summer, because our district sure could use some wins.
Is this a topic for the summer session? I thought maybe it had to do with the, no longer Attorney General, but Department of Justice.
I think it's more around public safety this upcoming special session.
When we spoke with our legislators, I know that this topic's gonna get brought up at session this summer, because they're hearing it across the entire state, that school districts are coming in, you know, well, what we would consider underfunded. And just, you know, depending on the size of the district, like just in our SEG, I think ours was $1.3 million. We were down just in the SEG. You know, I heard some huge numbers out of the large districts. So I think it's all comparable, you know, depending on the size of the district. But I think as a general rule, across our entire state, all the budgets were down. So that's why you're hearing us, we are talking to our legislators, and we're hoping to get something going and get some change.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Corey.
You're welcome.
Okay, that moves us to item 8, any public inputs? Would you mind just signing in? Sure. Sure, let's,
Can I speak in a meeting?
sure. Will you just please give your name and then you have 5 minutes.
I'm not gonna take 5.
Okay.
My name's Linda Garrett, I teach high school English. And at the end of the year here, I just wanna thank everybody for investing in me as a teacher in your district. You sent me to the reading apprenticeship twice, transforming my entire class. Also, my trip to RCA was fantastic. Also, I got to go to Albuquerque for the upcoming CTE changes that are happening. And I'm 10 years now as a teacher, and this is the first district that has decided that I am worth investing in, and I just want to thank you all for that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm curious, what house are you in?
I'm in Isabindi.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And I'm very excited about the whole house system. Like, I think it's going to be awesome and fun, and also have a pretty dress that I made.
Where do I sign in?
Okay, nothing else, Mrs. Church, online? Okay. Okay, that moves us to item number 9. Executive session notice is hereby given so that the Cobre Board of Education will meet in executive session for the following purpose. Item A, pursuant to Section 10-15-1H2 of the New Mexico Opens Meeting Act, specifically so that the board can present to and discuss with the superintendent's evaluation. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we go into executive session for the reasons you stated.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and do a roll call vote. Mrs. Harden?
Yes.
Ms. Heredia?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Secretary Terrazas?
Yes.
Vice President Guadiana?
Yes.
Okay, we are in executive session at 6:56.
My reservation was for one king bed, and I called and had that changed, and the difference between the price of having the two beds, because I'm taking my kids, is $100 total. So how do I pay that?
We'll have to ask Frank how you're gonna do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if it exceeds the amount per night,
Yeah.
we'll just have to fill out a form.
I don't want it paid by the school, I'll pay the difference.
Okay.
That's what it,
Okay. Okay, item number 10, reconvene in open session at the conclusion of the executive session for statement affirming that no action was taken in executive session and that discussions were limited to personnel matters as specified in the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to come back into open session.
I move that we come back into open session.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do a roll call vote. Mrs. Harden?
Yes.
Ms. Heredia?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Secretary Terrazas?
Yes.
And Vice President Guadiana.
yes.
Okay, we are back in open session at 8:06. That moves us to item 11, adjournment. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned at 8:06. Thank you.